Everybody, again, really good to be with you today. Thanks for just allowing each other to hear voices, just as we make much of Jesus together. To those of you joining online, thanks for being here. And it's really good to be with you. Later this week, I'll be slipping off into sabbatical. So Thursday night, Friday morning, sometime in there. So it's really good to be with you one more time in this context before that. And this month we've had some fun and some unique, challenging conversations around these things that we've just been learning. And I want to share one more of those. Had 8 or 9 of them at the beginning of late May, and had to whittle them down to 4. And so this is number 4 of those. And one of the things that's been fun for me over the last few weeks, I don't know if it's been fun for you, but it's been fun for me, so humor me one more time. It's been fun just to toss out some useless information that I'm learning, just useless things, right? And this one I actually just learned this week, so this is a right now thing. I don't know if some of you probably knew this existed. I honestly didn't know. Some of you probably been here on a cruise or something. This was brand new to me. Did you know that in the Bahamas, there is a real place called Pig Beach? I'll just show you a couple of pictures of that. Pig Beach, right? I mean, I never knew this thing existed. It's a real place. The only inhabitants full-time of this beach are pigs. That's it, okay? It's not lots of them, but it's just pigs. Now, people go there, and so maybe some of you have been there, and you've swam with the pigs or whatever else, right? I don't know, they look cute in this capacity, right? I don't know if they smell better because they swim, this is their part of the sea, are they always clean? It's a little different. I don't really know. People seem to love it, right? People, there's all sorts of pictures of people just petting and swimming with these pigs. I mean, except this guy. This guy clearly had enough. That he just I'm out. I'm done with this thing. He's trying to get back to the boat, wherever the boat is. He's I'm out of here. I've had enough. Had enough. So I didn't know that existed. So if you've been there, kudos to you. If that was news to you and you find it marginally hard to believe, welcome to my brain. Me too. And here's the thing about Pig Beach, right, in the Bahamas. It looks fairly pristine. It's the cleanest I've probably ever seen a pig look. It's swimming in that very clean, clear water, right? And so it looks pristine, kind of cute and everything else. Today I want to talk to you about something that when you first hear it or you first kind of get around this idea a little bit, it may not feel initially cute or pristine. And in fact, you might even have a little internal, don't know if I like that one. Don't know if I like it. And so what I want to invite you to do is just, if you have that somewhere along the way, just says, I don't know if I like that, acknowledge it. That's fine. I do it too sometimes around this. But then let's just walk the whole conversation together. This is something that I really am learning in a new way right now. And so what I talk about today around this thing, my vocabulary is not perfectly polished yet. The thoughts aren't perfectly clear. I mean, you're really getting it. Again, it's a new part of something I've known some about before and experienced some before, but it's a new part of how Jesus is expressing this in my life. And I'm convinced that it'll give you a bigger glimpse of God. And the goal at the end of the day, right, is to follow Jesus with everything we got and everything he's inviting us into, okay? So here's the thing. In order to see it, why don't you flip to a Bible, or if you want to get a phone or something, whatever you're going to do, Psalm chapter 7. Psalm chapter 7, middle of your Bible. This psalm, like many of them, not all of them, but many, written by a guy named David, David had a really full life. He was a younger brother, often overlooked and picked on and overlooked by his dad. He was a shepherd. He was a warrior, first a warrior against lions and bears that would come and try and kill the sheep. He was known to actually have killed lions and bears. He eventually became a warrior in the human army of Israel and fought many battles and really was revered for his strength as a warrior and his skill and a leader. He was a best friend. He had enemies. He was a dad. He was a husband. He knew grief and loss. He became king at one point, leading the entire nation of Israel. So he had a lot of victories. He had a lot of failures, including an epic moral failure that really shook the country for a bit. And so he had some wins that propelled the country, had some failures that shook the country. And in Psalms, we find all sorts of his writing, like his journal entries, almost like his prayers and journal entries, and these songs he wrote, and these emotions and these thoughts that he expresses. And Psalm 7 is one of those, and it comes at a time where he's on the wrong end of a scale, he's being chased and pursued. He's got a very clear, known group of people who are his real, tangible enemy in the moment. And so he's writing out of that. And so we're going to read his heart, his prayer, his cry, his frustration, his need, his desperation. You can hear all of that in this psalm. So Psalm chapter 7, we're going to read the first 6 verses. This is what it says. It said, Lord my God, I take refuge in you. I'm looking for a place to hide, and it's got to be you. So would you save and deliver me from all who pursue me? Or eventually they will tear me apart like a lion and rip me to pieces with no one to rescue me. That was physically a possibility for David in this moment. And while maybe that doesn't feel like a physical possibility for some of us, it does feel like an emotional reality for some of us, right? We have been, our emotions, our soul, our heart, our dream, our thing has been torn apart like a lion rips things apart. Rescue me. Verse 3, Lord my God, if I've done this, and there's guilt on my hands, if I've repaid my ally with evil or without cause, or have robbed my foe, then let my enemy pursue me. He's like, if any of this really is on me, like he's just trying to, clear his own heart here. He says, then let my enemy pursue me and overtake me. Let him trample me. Let him make me sleep in the dust. But David, at the end of the day, and this one knows it's not really his thing. This one isn't really caused by his sin or his disobedience. And so then check this out in verse 6. He says, arise, Lord, in your, what's that next word? Arise in your what? Your anger. Rise up against the rage of my enemies. Wake up, God. God, awake. So there's like a little mint in here, and I want you just to decree justice. Rise up in your anger. My enemy has a rage. Would you meet their rage with your anger? Like the picture we get here is David somehow is acquainted with a God who gets angry, like who has viable anger, strong, apparently sometimes destructive anger. To see it one more place, you don't have to turn here. I'll just read this to you, but you might want to write it down and see it in context. So Isaiah 61, which is really God speaking through the prophet Isaiah about Jesus, like way before Jesus actually comes to earth. Jesus would later read this passage about himself, saying, hey, here I am. Isaiah 61, the first couple of verses says this, the Spirit of the sovereign Lord is upon me, for the Lord has anointed me. He's given me his power to bring good news to the poor in every way. He sent me to comfort the brokenhearted and to proclaim that captives will be released and prisoners will be freed. Then verse 2, check it out. He says, and more than that, he sent me to tell those who mourn that the time of the Lord's favor has come, and with it, the day of the Lord's what? Anger. There it is again, the day of the Lord's anger against their enemies. Here's this thing. I'm learning more and more about God's anger. God does get angry. In a world where we're a little more inclined to go with a God who is always calm and always comforting, this idea of the God who could get angry could be a little, I don't know if I like that very much. I don't know if I really like that much. But I want to help you know why you would like it. Okay? Let me give it to you in this statement, and you just kind of absorb this for a second. But you say, well, what would God be angry at? And why would God's anger be of any value, like in my life, for me, and in my relationship with him? Here's the thing. God is angry at anything that is hindering me from taking hold of full life. God is angry at anything that is hindering me from taking hold of this full life that Jesus invited me into. God is angry at anything. Do you see the direction of the anger? The first direction of the anger is not at you or me. It is at the thing that is hindering you and me from full life. Why is that so important? I mean, if Journey has a theme verse, this is it. John 10:10, where Jesus says, hey, look, there is a thief, and he came to steal, kill, and destroy, to gradually and subtly steal parts of your life, to corrode them and steal them, and then gradually kill them, so that you would walk around with like destroyed thoughts and destroyed dreams and destroyed visions and destroyed love and destroyed, like, if I could just steal, kill, and destroy that. But Jesus says, now wait a second though. Well, that's what the enemy is doing. What you got to understand is I've come to prove I'm stronger than that enemy, and I've come so that you may have. And that word for have right there it actually means to take hold of, It means to grab a hold of something so you could take hold of life and that you could have it to the full. Like a gift is, the giving of a gift is really completed when somebody receives it, right? Somebody gives you a graduation gift or an anniversary gift or a birthday gift or whatever it is, right? And they hold it out and they give it to you and you just like smile and nod. That's not the completion, right? You take hold of this gift and that's full life. You take hold of it. And Jesus says, that's what I want for you. And so I've come to like destroy the work of the enemy who's here trying to destroy you. God's like, I'm angry at that. I'm angry at anything that hinders you from taking hold of this really full life. So let's talk real tangibly for a couple of minutes about how that plays out. What are the things then that God might be angry at? Well, let's go to an easy one first. He's angry at this pattern of temptation, sin, and death. James, the half-brother of Jesus, later in the New Testament of your Bible, he talks about that. Like that there's temptation comes, and when we give in to temptation and we choose to live our own way independently of God, that's sin. And sin eventually gives birth to death, again, where things in us die, dreams die, relationships die, thoughts die, the ability to see clearly die, just all of that dies. And we can walk around with that, carrying that death. And here's the thing, a lot of us, if we're really honest, even when we're just tempted, and we feel the pressure of a temptation, we feel the pressure of like satisfying ourselves, even if it's in complete contradiction to what we know God has asked and how God would satisfy us. Even when we're just tempted, sometimes we, in that moment, even if we don't say it, we live like God's angry at us. We live like God's angry at us. But that's not what we're seeing in Scripture. What we're seeing is that God's angry at the temptation and the source of the temptation. He's angry at a deceiver that is while packaging the temptation. When we sin, when we sin, God's first anger isn't necessarily at you, it's at the thing that caused the sin. He's angry for you because the sin is limiting your ability to keep taking hold of full life. And of course, he's angry at death. I mean, that's the thing he came to ultimately destroy, right? All the things that lead to death, but also death. It's like he's angry at that. He came to beat that. He came to become that so he could beat that. There's a second one. It gets a little more nuanced. God's angry at deception. And it's easy to say deception because that's really what Satan is. He's just a deceiver. That's the only thing he knows. The only thing that Satan knows is lies and deception. He doesn't have another tool in his belt. That's his entire arsenal. How can I deceive people? How can I deceive humanity? That's all he's got. And part of what our responsibility is in every generation and collection of generations is to say, how might the enemy be deceiving? And one of the prominent ways that the enemy seems to be deceiving us now, but humanity in general and people who would say, I'm a follower of Jesus, is through this way of living in which when we find somebody that disagrees with us, we assume that is hate. And when we find somebody that we assume hates us, our next move is to kill relationally. It's to kill relationally. Cancel isn't like strong, that's the culture, but we kill relationally. We kill relational opportunity. We kill any relational momentum there was, right? We view disagreement as hatred, and hatred deserves to be killed. And here's the deception. You know why that's so deceiving? Because the person or the people group that is the people that we're relationally killing in that moment, that's actually people that God is angry for. He's angry for them before he is angry at them. God is angry for them because he is still wanting to reach them. God is angry for the person that is viewed as our enemy, the person who may be doing the evil thing, the group who may be doing the evil thing, the group who may have evil in them, who may be destructive, who may be, right? God is first angry for them because until their last breath, God would say, I still want to reach them. I still love them. I still am consumed with them. And the deception of our day is that the right and holy thing to do is, look, even inside the church, we do this to each other. We do this to each other, which is even more messed up. But the holy thing of the day is, if you disagree with me, then you must hate me. You're not safe for me, so I kill the relationship. It's a very simple progression. Here's what's messing with me. Here's what's messing with me. Maybe this won't mess with you, but it is messing with me. What I'm discovering is that I all too often, it's way too often, am only angry at people God is first angry for. All too often, I am only angry at people who God is first angry for. It happened to me this week, Friday, one moment. And later in the day, I'm processing, I'm like, ooh, that is not how God is angry for me. I'm all too often realizing I'm only angry at the person that God is first angry for. See, you and I, we're glad that God was angry for us because that's how he beats sin, that's how he beats death, that's how he beats great, right? That you and I are glad that God was first angry for us. We're the beneficiaries of that. But it's so easy to be only angry at people God is first angry for. And then, so you got this deceit thing, you got this like temptation, sin, death pattern, right? And then last one, we just got to call it what it is. Like there is this potential that at times God is angry at us. He's angry at you and me. So wait, what? Now I really don't like that. Now what are we? Wait, listen, what? But here's the reality. Sometimes you and I are our own worst hindrance to taking hold of full life. Sometimes it's not anybody, it's just us. We're the hindrance. Sometimes we choose the sin over God, and we know it. It wasn't momentary. It wasn't a sin that we committed. It wasn't an act of rebellion we committed. Thought, oh, what am I doing? Like, I don't want that. It's a sin we know. It's a rebellion we know, and we don't care. We're unrepentant. We're hard-hearted in it. We just don't care. We have this thing that we're like, hey, I know this is what Jesus invites us to do, and it's really clear, but Jesus kind of made me this way, and I see it this way, and so I'm going to kind of make my own version of that thing. And in that moment, we are trusting our own heart, which the Bible says left to its own devices is deceitful and wicked, as opposed to trusting the heart of Jesus, who loved me enough to shape this command. And in that moment, we're becoming our own greatest hindrance. And God wants us to take hold of full life so much that part of his anger for us has to become like anger at us because he's got to help us, he's got to compel us. I think he gets angry at us when we're so selfish that we just completely ignore the mission, like we completely ignore what he's about. Like, I came to help people have full life, not give you a safe bubble. I came for you to have life with me, and then I gave you a mission to live. I gave you a story to be a part of. I think he gets angry with us when we take all he's done for us and we just become a consumer of his thing in his church, and we just look and say, I just follow Jesus for all the good things he would do for me, and forget the sacrifice and forget like the fact of what he sacrificed for me. I'm really looking for things to just kind of be perfect and good. And I'm even looking kind of for that in church. And the way I pick a church is based on, do they have a time that works perfectly for me? And do they have a way of sitting that looks perfectly for me? And do they have parking that matches it? I mean, right, we view everything through the grid of what can I consume. Friends, listen. That's a deception. That's never what Jesus invited us into. Never. Jesus invited us into this thing of, hey, pick up a cross and follow me. That's where the good life really is. Pick up a cross. Not a shopping bag of good things you think you can collect. And this thing of following Jesus, I want to give you full life, and part of full life is like, follow me. So sometimes we're our own worst hindrance, and the anger can be at us because it's for us at the same time. See, here's the thing. I need, and I think you need too, I need a God whose love is strong enough that he can be angry for me. I need a God whose love is strong enough that he can be angry for me and for his cause in my life. And here's what you got to understand. Like, here's what you got to get, right? Is like the God who is gracious to us is the same God who can be angry for us. The God who is forgiving is the same God that can be angry for us. The God that is compassionate and tender is the same God that can be angry for us. The God who loves to give good gifts is the same God that at times gives his anger as the good gift for us. The God who gives dreams and visions and hope of a future is the same God that can be angry for us. The same God that can free us from addiction and vice and the grip of all of that is the same God that's angry for us. It's the broader view of all of God. We want all of God, all of his expressions. You and I, we need a God who loves us enough, with a strong enough love, to be angry for us. And it's the same God we're looking at for everything else, for forgiveness, for grace, for compassion, for hope, for love, for renewal, for eternity, for confidence, for healing. All of that comes because at some point God has been angry for us first. Same God, all the stories. So here's what I want to do, because I know this is a little bit of a angry God, angry, for me, good, at me, because it's for me. I don't know what to do with all that. I want to give us just a minute to absorb it for a second. So our team's going to come back, and we're going to sing a little bit of a prayer. We're going to sing a large portion of the story of God and humanity in this. And so as they come, I want to invite you to stand, and let me tell you how we're going to do this. I just give you this moment. We say, hey, okay, let's sing this. Let's let this be the reminder that at every turn, this is who God is. At every turn, God who is compassionate is the same God who can get angry for us. The God who weeps with you in the greatest brokenness is the same God that can be angry for you. Let's declare that for just a little bit.